I authorize the sale. Those 5 words appeared on documents supposedly signed by me while I was lying unconscious on an operating table. When I woke up after spinal surgery, my phone exploded with missed calls, congratulatory messages from my family, and one voicemail from my father. "We sold your $425,000 condo," he said proudly. "Your sister deserved the money more than you needed the property." They thought my surgery had left me helpless. They thought I would forgive them because we were family. But they forgot one thing. I had proof, and their perfect plan was about to collapse. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 35 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I believed hard work could protect you from almost anything. I was a physical therapist in Chicago, owned a small condo worth about $425,000, and lived a quiet life I had built entirely on my own. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every piece of furniture had come from years of overtime, skipped vacations, and careful budgeting. That condo wasn't just property. It was proof that I never needed anyone to rescue me. For nearly 2 years, I'd been dealing with severe spinal problems. The pain started as an occasional ache after long shifts, but eventually became unbearable. My surgeon recommended a complicated operation that would keep me under anesthesia for most of the day, followed by months of recovery. I wasn't scared of the surgery itself. I was looking forward to finally living without constant pain. My younger sister, Chloe, had different priorities. She was planning an extravagant destination wedding that seemed to grow more expensive every week. Every family dinner somehow turned into another discussion about flower arrangements, luxury venues, designer dresses, or 5-star resorts. My parents treated every new expense like a family emergency that everyone else was expected to solve. A month before my surgery, my mother called me into their living room. "You're doing well financially," she said carefully. "Couldn't you help your sister one last time? She deserves her dream wedding." I smiled politely and shook my head. "I've already paid my medical bills, and I'll be off work for months. I can't risk my savings." The disappointment on both of their faces was impossible to miss. For several days, they kept bringing it up in different ways, insisting that family should always come first. Every time, I gave the same answer: no. Eventually, the request stopped. My parents acted like they'd finally accepted my decision, and I wanted to believe they had. We hugged the evening before my surgery. My dad even promised not to worry me while I recovered. The next morning, I signed only the hospital consent forms, listed my emergency medical contact, kissed my best friend Mia goodbye, and let the nurses wheel me toward the operating room. I truly believed everything important in my life would still be waiting for me when I woke up. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I finally opened my eyes, everything felt heavy. The bright hospital lights blurred together. My mouth was dry, and every inch of my back throbbed with pain. A nurse smiled and told me the surgery had gone well. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I reached for my phone. The screen lit up with 73 missed calls, 28 text messages, 9 voicemails. At first, I assumed something terrible had happened to one of my relatives. My heart started pounding as I unlocked the phone with trembling fingers. The newest voicemail was from my dad. I pressed play. "Emma, don't panic when you hear this. We had to make a difficult decision while you were in surgery. Chloe's wedding was falling apart because the venue needed immediate payment. We sold your condo. You were already under anesthesia, so we signed the paperwork for you. You'll understand once you've had time to think about it. Family comes first." The recording ended. I stared at the phone, waiting for the punchline. It never came. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain refused to believe anyone could say something so unbelievable with such calm confidence. A few minutes later, the hospital room door burst open. My best friend, Mia, rushed inside, her face pale. "Oh, thank God you're awake." "What kind of joke is this?" I asked, holding up my phone. She didn't answer immediately. That silence terrified me. "It's not a joke, Emma." The room suddenly felt colder. Mia pulled out her own phone and showed me several photos. Strangers were carrying furniture out of my condo. Moving trucks filled the parking lot. Someone had already changed the locks. I couldn't even sit upright without help, Yet somehow people were walking through the home I'd spent 12 years paying for. Then Mia opened our extended family group chat. My stomach twisted. My mother had posted smiling photos of Chloe trying on another wedding dress. My aunt had commented, "Emma will come around eventually. She has such a generous heart." Another relative wrote, "Sometimes parents have to make hard choices for the good of the whole family." Nobody questioned where the money had come from. Nobody asked if I'd agreed. It was as though my opinion had simply disappeared the moment I went under anesthesia. The nurse noticed my breathing becoming uneven and gently reminded me to stay calm after such major surgery. I nodded, but inside, something had changed. The fear was fading. In its place came something colder. I asked Mia to hand me my notebook. "If they really sold my home," I whispered, "then somebody broke the law." She looked at me carefully. "What are you going to do?" I picked up my phone again, ignored every family message, and searched for one number. A real estate attorney. Because one detail in my father's voicemail made absolutely no legal sense. And if I was right, the nightmare they had started was about to become their own. The first person who answered my call wasn't a police officer. It was a real estate attorney named Daniel Brooks. I explained everything as calmly as I could, starting with my surgery, my father's voicemail, and the claim that my parents had somehow sold my condo while I was unconscious. He interrupted only once. "Emma," he said, "did you personally sign any documents authorizing the sale before your surgery?"
No.
"Did you give anyone power of attorney?" "Never." There was a brief silence. Then his voice became firm. "Don't contact your parents again. From this moment forward, let me handle everything." Within an hour, Daniel had requested copies of the closing documents from the title company and county recorder's office. While I remained in my hospital bed, he began comparing every signature with the ones I'd used on previous legal documents. By that evening, he called back. "Emma, we've found serious problems." My pulse quickened. "The signatures don't match your verified records. They're inconsistent, and according to the hospital, you were under anesthesia during the exact time these documents were supposedly signed." I closed my eyes. So they really did it. It appears someone submitted paperwork they had no legal authority to sign. "We're filing an emergency petition first thing tomorrow morning." The next morning, everything moved faster than I expected. The county recorder placed a temporary hold on the property transfer while the documents were reviewed. The title company froze the remaining funds connected to the sale. Even the buyer's attorney demanded answers after learning the transaction might not be legally valid. By lunchtime, my parents' phones were ringing nonstop. Instead of celebrating Chloe's upcoming wedding, they were trying to explain why the sale was suddenly under investigation. Mia kept me updated from her laptop. "The buyer wants out," she said. "They're afraid the whole deal could be reversed." For the first time since hearing my father's voicemail, I felt something besides anger. Hope. Late that afternoon, Daniel called again. "The notary's records don't line up with the hospital timeline. We've asked investigators to verify every step of the closing." I stared out the hospital window as rain tapped softly against the glass. My parents had believed I would wake up frightened, confused, and willing to surrender. Instead, every hour uncovered another question they couldn't answer. That evening, my mother finally texted me, "Emma, please stop this. You're ruining Chloe's wedding." I didn't reply. I simply forwarded the message to Daniel. Minutes later, he answered with 4 words. "Good. Keep documenting everything." As the investigation widened, the conversation inside my family changed completely. Nobody was asking whether Chloe would have her dream wedding anymore. Everyone was asking the same frightening question. What else were investigators about to uncover? 3 days later, I was finally discharged from the hospital. I was still walking with a brace and moving carefully, but physically I felt stronger than I had in months. Emotionally, I was done letting guilt control me. Daniel picked me up on the way to his office. The moment we sat down, he slid a folder across the desk. "The court granted the temporary injunction," he said with a small smile. "Your condo cannot legally change hands until this case is resolved." For the first time since waking up from surgery, I took a full breath. That afternoon, the consequences spread through my family faster than any rumor ever had. Because the proceeds from the disputed sale had been frozen, several of Chloe's remaining wedding payments couldn't be completed. The luxury venue placed the reservation on hold. The florist demanded guaranteed funds before ordering imported flowers. Even the travel company paused the honeymoon package until payment issues were resolved. Suddenly, nobody was talking about centerpieces or bridesmaid dresses anymore. They were talking about lawyers. Relatives who had congratulated my parents only days earlier began calling me instead. Most of them had believed I'd willingly sacrifice my condo. When they heard the truth, the conversations changed completely. Even Chloe stopped defending our parents. She called me one evening, her voice shaking. "I didn't know they did it without your permission." "I believe you," I said quietly. "But that doesn't change what happened." 2 days later, my parents asked to meet. Daniel advised against it, so I declined. Instead, he informed them that all future communication would go through his office. Their desperate messages kept coming anyway. "Emma, please fix this. The family is falling apart. Can't we handle this privately?" I read every message, without answering. For years, they'd expected me to sacrifice my future to keep everyone else comfortable. This time, I chose something different. I chose the truth. And for the first time in my life, everyone else had to live with the consequences of their own decisions. 6 months later, the case was finally over. The court declared the property transfer invalid, and my condo legally remained mine. The buyer was compensated through the proper legal process, and everyone involved could finally move forward. As for my parents, they were forced to face the consequences of choices they had convinced themselves were justified. I never celebrated that. I simply accepted it. My recovery took longer than expected, but eventually I returned to work. Every day I helped patients rebuild their strength, and in many ways, I was doing the same for myself. I also made one decision that surprised everyone. I stopped trying to earn my family's approval. The endless guilt, the constant pressure to sacrifice more, the belief that keeping peace was my responsibility. I let all of it go. Months later, Chloe asked to meet for coffee. She apologized for benefiting from something that should never have happened. It didn't erase the past, but it was honest, and honesty was something our family had been missing for a long time. People sometimes ask whether I hate my parents. I don't. Hate would keep me tied to the worst chapter of my life. Instead, I chose boundaries, peace, and a future they no longer controlled. Because sometimes justice isn't watching someone lose everything. Sometimes justice is simply refusing to let them take anything else from you.